this, the price of self-respect. This seems like an interesting video. It's an hour-long video. Seems like an interesting video. The price of self-respect. Okay.
Ruckus, how could you possibly love white people so much?
It's easy. Have you ever looked at them? White man just a joy to be around. They smell like lemon juice and pledge furniture cleaner. And look at them. They gave us discipline, jobs, put structure in our lives.
Bro, this shit had to be like the saddest thing to see in real time, bro. But we seen a lot of coon ass niggas. I'm not gonna lie, you could tell the niggas who only fuck white women.
And look at them. They gave us discipline, jobs, put...
Bro, this shit, seeing these niggas get politicized and stop talking about fucking stroking your mushroom tip. Like, these niggas was my childhood.
Dude, get on the computer and jack off. And she know about it.
She let that sleep.
Do it right there in front of her. I don't have a problem.
You be her. I'm the dude.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, can't go to sleep, man, listen to this shit. Oh, yeah.
These niggas is probably a part of the reason why I am the man I am today. Like, low-key. You feel me? I grew up on these niggas, bro. And like, as a young nigga, I seen them change. I seen them like become fucking MAGA heads, whatever the fuck you call this shit, bro. It was the saddest shit for me to see. These niggas went from being extremely entertaining to just the heights of coolery.
Construction our lives took us out of the jungle. And what we do is appreciation. We march up and down the street. We vote. Carry on in grace.
Look, I don't know if you heard, but racism is officially over. It only took 4 centuries of state violence, exploitation, and mass incarceration, but we finally did it. Look, just don't celebrate too loud now, alright? They'll call it ghetto and unruly. This channel became dedicated to black media analysis because of my obsession with black art and entertainment. And I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but it's because it's damn near impossible to separate racial politics from how we as black people interact with media. It doesn't matter what form it takes, be it music, film, dance, poetry, hell, even something as simple as streaming or podcasting. Every single expression of black media is shaped and contextualized by racial politics. Whether or not that was the creator's intention, and whether or not the audience even notices it on the surface. And I keep hammering this point in my videos because acknowledging that reality isn't just important, it's inescapable. These politics don't just shape our art, they shape us. They affect how we move, how we operate, how we present ourselves, and even how we succeed. And that success is never neutral. It's directly tied to the implicit roles you're boxed into as a black person in our media landscape. Even those roles aren't wide open. They come with boundaries, expectations, and a silent set of rules. You end up walking a really scary tightrope, one that forces you to balance your authenticity against white comfort. Lean too far into honesty and you're branded angry, radical, or ungrateful. Pull back too much and you're seen as safe, at the expense of hollowing yourself out to fit inside an acceptable comfort zone. So what do you do when you're in that position as a black person navigating these spaces? Do you play by the rules, sanding yourself down just enough to fit in? Or do you push back and risk being branded as too extreme? Well, there's always a third option. One that pays well, works every time, and never fails to get applause. That's right, kids, you can be a
Every time I see these niggas, bro, I'm not gonna lie. Every time I see this fucking dancing big fucking Niggatron 3000 on my shit, I'm tired of seeing this big dancing nigga, bro. Tired of you, bro. Tired of you, bro.
Black Americans do not know how to resolve basic conflicts.
Being a is an easy way to secure a bag. It's the oldest hustle in the book. Trade your people's dignity for a seat at the table, even if that seat is just for show. And in a media landscape where white comfort is currency, nothing pays better than telling racist white folks exactly what they want to hear and showing them exactly what they want to see.
I want to tell every single African American person that's watching this video, you are not oppressed. Do not believe the lie. You are not a victim. You are a victor.
And that's why it's important to be precise here, because isn't just an insult we throw at another black person we don't like or disagree with. It has a very specific meaning. Is a black person who deliberately performs or promotes harmful stereotypes about their own community, not out of ignorance or passivity, but as a deliberate act to gain approval, protection, or profit from white audiences and institutions. It doesn't matter the decade or the time period. White institutions reward it, white audiences eat it up, and the system is built to amplify it. It's effective because it props up the same lies that keep racism alive, validating and entertaining racism while reassuring those in power that nothing.
This shit was crazy. This shit was fucking crazy. This shit was fucking crazy.
Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill and Mississippi, from every state, every city.
Toby be good nigga for Mesa. Don't send Toby away. Don't send Toby away. Toby be good nigga. Toby be good for him, boss. I be good nigga for Mesa. Good nigga. Toby be good nigga. Good nigga for Mesa. Good nigga. Don't send Toby away. So the fuck this shit is giving. That's what the fuck this shit is giving. I'm sorry. So the fuck this shit is giving.
Every village and every hamlet.
Toby be good nigga for
And
Mesa.
when we let freedom ring, we will be able to see
what the fuck?
all of your children.
That's why it's so damn profitable.
Word.
So long as racism exists, so will it. But that's what simultaneously makes it so dangerous. Because every time a rap dances and performs, it doesn't just reflect on them, it reflects on all of us.
Yeah.
Their words and actions become ammunition, recycled as proof that racism is exaggerated or that black struggle is self-inflicted. And since so much of depends on white approval, it almost always gravitates towards conservatism. The politics most invested in pretending racism is over and inequality is just about personal responsibility.
You know that white supremacy and white nationalism is ranks nowhere near the top of the issues that are facing Black America. And the reason that you are bringing them up in this room is because it is attempt to make the election all about race as the Democrat.
How much white cock do you inhale on a daily basis, ma'am? You know, I'm not gonna lie. It's like you can also tell the black woman who just be sucking mad white dick too. You know, you feel me? It's like the hair. I'm not gonna say too much. I'm not gonna say too much. I'm not gonna say too much about my own people. You can kind of tell. You can kind of tell. You can kind of tell. I'm not gonna lie. You can kind of tell. You can kind of tell.
My case, that's what makes a so valuable to white.
They all have like that fucking Facebook mom aesthetic to them, low key. It's like you see a black woman with that Facebook mom aesthetic, you know, like, yeah, bro, she one of them. She not for us. She not for us, nigga.
They get to see a black face echo their talking points back at them, wrapping white comfort in black credibility. The more that caricature circulates, the more it solidifies until it hardens into policy, into prejudice, and into everyday justifications for inequality. Isn't just self-destructive, it's collective collateral damage. The individual cashes the check, but the community pays the price. Be it minstrelsy or political pundits, we've always looked down on the folks who choose to perform like this, and for good reason. But what do? In a digital age where these bad faith actors aren't confined to a single stage, but endless screens, what can you even do? Wait, combat this? Like that? Why beat them when you can just join them? Being a is easier than ever before.
It's 2018 in America. Does racism exist?
Absolutely not. And it has never existed.
Whoa!
It has never.
Wait, whoa!
Can you say that again for the niggas in the back? Oh my god!
Whoa!
It's a made-up word.
People jump so quick and they tense up at the thought of racial profiling. It's so wrong, it's so wrong. What is marketing? It's profiling. That's what marketing is.
That's a gay ass thing. I was gonna watch this video, but then I realized he was a Bati man earlier. I had to cut it off.
Supremacy and the KKK. Really? That's what you guys want me to be concerned with this week? Do I look like an idiot?
As long as racism is profitable, there will always be a demand for some eager, happy-go-lucky Negro willing to sell it back with a smile. Playing into negative racial tropes is one of the fastest ways to get paid, but that money doesn't come free. With it comes the cost of harming.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you, my nigga. Like the whole, like I guess, like everyone was doing it, like those vines back in the day, like the black version of this, that, and the third. But it got to a point. You feel me? It got to a point, batch. It got to a point, my nigga. It was like, damn.
your own people, alienating yourself from your community, or worst of all, selling your own dignity. With that being said, whip out your tap dancing shoes and get ready to dive in. And together, let's find out if all the wealth, fame, and influence is worth the price of self-respect.
Other folks talking about slave me. Wasn't nothing wrong with slavery. At least we got good food back then.
As usual, before we get started, let's establish something. I want to further clarify our definition of what makes it and why it's not always the same thing as a black person being conservative. As I'm sure there's some black conservatives out there just waiting to pounce on this video and cry with the whole independent thinker spiel. Being black and conservative doesn't by default make you a right there being a hell of a lot of overlap between the two. The difference lies in intent and performance. There's a lot of black folks that favor conservative politics out of ingrained survival. Centuries of this nation's history have taught us that black dissent, resistance, or even just demanding equity is often met with brutal repression in both violence and policy. For some, leaning into conservatism is less about selling out and more about seeking safety.
That's a trained behavior that niggas need to break out of, though. Like you like a dog. That's like a dog that's been beaten into submission. What the fuck type of thinking is that, nigga? Stand up.
Or trying
Stand
to
the fuck up.
A system that punishes resistance.
Stand the fuck up.
Mind you, this logic is still extremely counterproductive and harmful. There isn't any reputable data that shows that conservative policies benefit black Americans economically or socially on any mass scale. It just denotes how some of it can still come from a place of good faith. But a deliberately performs or promotes harmful narratives about their own people, not because they believe it in good faith, but because it buys them approval, protection, or profit from white audiences and institutions. They're not just conservative, they're performers. They're actively putting on a show, embodying roles that serve oppressive systems while personally benefiting them. It all boils down to their intent and performance. It's deliberate, it's a show, it reinforces racist myths, and most importantly, it's transactional. The individual trades dignity and community for validation and reward. That's not survival. That's a spineless, shameless spectacle. A spectacle that, as we're about to see, has no universal form. To kick us off, we're gonna dive into the main archetypes that like to perform, exploring not just how and why they're so lucrative, but how they ultimately do nothing more than benefit white
Not
supremacy.
Speed.
Look at the cash.
I'm not gonna lie, Speed be doing a lot of shit, but goddamn, bro, I hope you don't turn to Speed too much, because I feel like Speed's intent, again, it goes back to the intent. Speed's intent is to be entertaining and just have a good time, and that nigga's just being himself. And sometimes when you just being yourself and you being a spaz, tweaked out, whatever the fuck, niggas might perceive that as like a minstrel show or like the humiliation ritual or whatever the fuck the racial term is for that shit. You feel me? Whatever the fuck you call that shit, niggas might perceive it the wrong way when the nigga's honestly just being himself and he's just being a tweak. You feel me? Because a little nigga might generally find this racist, ignorant shit funny, and whether that's a fault of the system or just the type of nigga he is, it is what it is. Because I know I find racist shit funny for sure. That's why I be saying so much. You feel me? Because it's like, damn, like y'all really be wilding with that. You feel me? So I don't know, man. Does that make me a I don't know.
Your dignity for a few coins and a milkshake? Want to make white folks laugh and hate you at the same time? Don't worry, I've got just the right pair of white gloves for you.
Enough is enough, and that's what I've had a abundance of.
The Jester and the Knight.
Every has a role to play, a mask that makes them profitable and entertaining to white audiences. And while there are many variations, the two most consistent archetypes are the Jester and the Knight. Different masks, same purpose. Whether they clown or crusade, both archetypes ultimately serve the same role, and that's reassuring white audiences that racism is either laughable or non-existent. First, we have the Jester, the oldest and most recognizable archetype of the entertainer who survives by making a spectacle of themselves, often at the expense of their own people. At its root, the Jester is a performer who embodies and exaggerates racist caricatures so that white audiences can laugh, feel at ease, and avoid confronting the realities of black life. And this figure isn't new. It stretches back to the minstrel shows of the early 19th century, where white performers would don blackface and prance around the stage mocking blackness, painting it as ignorant, lazy, and buffoonish. You know, a real staple of American culture. White folks just couldn't get enough of this shit. I don't know, it was like the 19th century version of Friends. Around the 1830s, we get Thomas Daddy Rice, who popularizes his character Jim Crow, a shuffling, grinning, broken English caricature of a rural black man. A caricature Rice himself loosely based on a disabled slave he had once seen. The caricature would soon become a symbol for black inferiority, so powerful and popular that the name itself would later be used to brand an entire system of segregation. But alongside Jim Crow, you also had Zip-Coon, only this one was based on a city living dandy. While Jim Crow was a lazy, sloppy buffoon, Zip-Coon was a ridiculous fraud. He was overdressed, misused big words, and worst of all, thought of himself as equal to white people. The joke was that no matter how hard he tried, he could never rise above his place. These two became the blueprint of the jester. You now have a role where a black figure exists only to reassure white audiences that blackness is inherently laughable, inferior, and unserious. From the very beginning, the jester wasn't just about entertainment, it was about control. Eventually, black performers themselves are pushed into these roles, forced to mock their own people just to gain access to stages otherwise closed to them. The costume changes with the decades, but the script remains the same. You see the jester morph into Hollywood, on the big screen with Stepin Fetchit and Willie Best.
What's your name? Fine, bro.
Here's something to worry about if you white. What you mean? They won't hurt us because we slaves. They is fighting for us. But if you's white and southern, then you's the enemy.
Oh, don't pay him no mind. Come on, children, get in there and hide.
On radio with Amos and Andy, and even in variety shows with Rochester Anderson.
Kingfish, you mean to say that you is an actual doctor?
Well, I ain't been blabbing it around, but I've been taking a correspondence course in doctoring.
He's the funny black friend, the clownish entertainer, the loudmouth comic relief who eases racial tension with jokes and dance moves. Different eras, different packaging, but the function never changes. Blackness was safe only when it was a punchline. Black people are tolerated as long as they keep the jokes coming and never demand too much seriousness. Today, the jester thrives in the digital era. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, entire careers are built around parroting black culture for white clicks. Sometimes he leans into exaggerated AAVE or quote-unquote hood stereotypes for laughs. Other times he positions himself as the safe black person who it's okay to make racist jokes around. You want an N-word pass? Don't worry, he'll give you one.
The league, what is he like there? He gotta pass the league off. Yo, come on, boy. Bo, Ray.
All right, listen. All right. Now, I'm not a Kaisenat dick rider. But we have to think about context here, okay? He said strike one though. But we have to think about context. Cause I'm not a Kaisenat dick rider, but I feel like I knew he was gonna bring up Kai nigga because that nigga just be doing dumb nigga shit. He be doing dumb nigga shit. Like, the intention. His intention is to be entertaining to his own people and to just be himself, not to benefit from the white man. Like, I feel like this is low-key, like, again, I'm not a Kaisenat dick rider, but I feel like this is like low-key a stretch. I'm not gonna hold you, bro.
Don't give a fuck.
Okay, we know. Well, you need to check that, nigga. What the fuck? You know, what do you mean? No, you know, no, you know what? No, you need to. Okay, hold on. No, you need to check that nigga, bro.
Damn. Shit.
I get it. It's for clips, right? It's for clips. It's a clip farm.
Nigga, please.
He might even make fun of real issues such as police brutality or systemic inequality, as if centuries of oppression, violence, and pain are nothing more than material.
Alright, well, the prison stream was funny. Like, I feel like, okay, if somebody says dick sucking kind of dragon, I'm not gonna lie to you. But I got you.
If centuries of oppression, violence, and pain are nothing more than material for a punchline. It's how we get King Batch.
Here's the thing, bro. If you could, because I remember on Kaisenat's stream, and the only reason why he called out the little nigga for it was not because he actually gives a fuck about the fat Kaisenat and any. I'm gonna tell you something right now. The W and L community does not give a fuck about the LGBT queer community. I'm gonna tell you right now. But something happened on Kaisenat's subathon where a little boy I don't know whose son it was, asked him, why do you hang out with Rakai? He's a and he was like, whoa, don't say that, it's not the third. But the main reason he did it was to protect, because you know what I mean, you piss off a certain community, everything goes to shit. So he did it in an attempt to appease them niggas. But you could, if you can call that out, why can't you call out Ray saying nigga? That's all I'm saying. If you can call that out, you could call out Ray saying nigga. That's all I'm saying.
Making an entire career
That's it.
off of chicken, watermelon, and crime.
That's it. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. King Bash, like, even as a young nigga, bro, I was like, damn, like, yeah, like, I don't know, bro. Like, it gets to a point. You know what I'm saying? It gets to a point. The nigga tree gets to a point. It definitely gets to a point, bro.
An entire career off of chicken, watermelon.
As I got older, because I was a young nigga watching Vine. As I got older, it stopped being funny and it just got grating. So I completely understand, because it was like, damn, bro, like, switch to pivot into something else. Pivot into something else outside of the black people, like, pivot into something else, nigga. I ain't gonna lie.
And crime jokes.
For a bottle of lotion a day, you can help these ashy African American children. Please call now.
I made it out the hood, baby. Welcome back.
For the next 12 hours, all crime is legal.
I'm not gonna lie, some of this shit was fucking jokes though, but like, yeah, like, you dragging it with some of it. Black people during the purge. Oh yeah, this is some fucking peak coonery. Oh my god.
That's how you get iShowSpeed barking like an animal while also letting his non-black fans call him and make racial jokes at his.
Okay, well, Speed barks like an animal because that nigga's actually part fucking dog. That nigga's barely human, from what I understand. That nigga's definitely part animal. But the racial thing, I feel like, with how big Speed gets, how many times you gonna call out people and say, yo, don't fucking say that shit? You feel me? Like especially with his brand of humor, like, you can't, like, it's gonna be fucking tiring doing that every goddamn time. You feel me? And because of his personality and the type of jokes he makes, people are comfortable saying certain things to him that they really shouldn't be. That's the nature of what it is. You feel me? This nigga is not, I'm sure he's not okay with people calling him a fucking nigga who aren't black, bro. I don't know, man. I don't know, bro.
Expense.
What's this?
It's a cotton. Look.
Cotton?
Cotton.
I never got gifted cotton.
You all laugh at the hell?
Why do you give me cotton?
Yeah.
W give chat.
Open that shit. You gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
What's it
You're
do?
gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Wait,
you're gonna love it.
I would bang the fuck out of this nigga face with that shit. But again, you see, the problem is you have things to lose. Then they'll crash out and force feed this fucking. I was about to use a word that I shouldn't use to describe Asians. If he force fed this Asian nigga the banana, it would have been a lawsuit, bro. Simple as that. It would have been a fucking lawsuit, bro. You feel me? So the nigga, like, you can't even crash when you have shit to lose. Nigga like me, I'm gonna fucking smush your shit right up your goddamn fucking nozzle, nigga. You gonna sniff fucking potassium for days, bitch ass nigga. Yeah. And like, he couldn't even crash like he wanted to because, again, nigga got resources, nigga got shit to lose. Like, tough.
Cotton, please give me another job.
That's how you get all these tomfoolery.
And then, like, let's be honest, like, him just doing that nigga tree for stream, that's just him. Like, I might do something like that, nigga. You feel me? Like, and then what, you gonna call me a because I made a racist joke about picking cotton? I don't know, bro. Like, some of this is kind of dick suck. But I understand what he's saying with King Batch and certain things. You feel me?
Yeah, this nigga's on TikTok eating food in a messy manner.
This nigga's a fucking for sure. Because this nigga is a detriment to the entire black community. This nigga needs to go. This nigga needs to fucking go. These two niggas need to go. 100%. I ain't gonna lie, bro. This, yeah. No. I 100% agree with these two niggas. For sure.
While dancing like chimpanzees.
This goddamn fuck. And you know what be pissing me off, bro? You know what be pissing me off? This nigga don't even be chewing the food, bro. Nigga have the most nicest food being brought to him, and his whole point is to eat that shit in as littlest bites as possible to show that niggas just be munching down crazy. You don't even get the time. You don't like. It would be different if like he like cut the food regularly and then he got up and he did like a little. You feel me? I get it. You do a little dance. You can't even eat normally, nigga. You have to eat like a fucking animal, bro. What the fuck wrong with him, man? Yup.
Hell, this nigga is literally calling himself the Groovin' Gorilla. You cannot get any more on the nose than this.
The Groovin' Gorilla.
The variant or the medium. In every form, the jester's job is to turn blackness.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you, bro. Like, I feel like the Kai Cenat shit is dick sucking again. I'm not a Kai Cenat dick rider. I'm not a Kai Cenat defender. I'm not a Kai Cenat fucking. I'm not a mafia. I'm not a mafioso. I think the nigga's funny, but I think this might be a little dick suck. I ain't gonna lie.
Into a spectacle. He makes racism.
Because it's very clear that nigga is just having fun with his friends. And like, yeah, here's the thing. The only difference between what Kai Cenat's doing is that he puts a camera in front of it. I'm sure, like, I'm pretty sure these niggas is making the exact same jokes, doing the exact same fuckery, acting the exact same way when the cameras is off. The nigga's a tweak. It's very clear that nigga's a tweak. What are we doing? So I ain't gonna lie, I understand. And here's the thing: when you're internet, you have to ride this nigga didn't mention another thin line that you have to ride as a black man who is doing any form of content or any content creation. There's a thin line that you have to ride between being your authentic self and possibly being perceived as a fucking cool. Because if you want to make certain jokes, now it's against your whole fucking community. You feel me? Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, I be saying a bunch of possible esque things, and I don't put white people on a fucking pedestal, nigga. I don't want to benefit from the white infrastructure. I'm just a nigga making jokes. Does that make me now? I don't know, bro. Somebody like this beat. I understand what he's saying with King Batch, and I understand what he's saying with some of this other with the two dancing niggas. But for the speed and the Kai Cenat, and again, I don't dick suck these niggas, but I feel like this might be dick suck for that. It's a little bit of dick suck
because it's coated in laughter. And that is why he works. The jester works because he makes racism feel good. He doesn't challenge the audience, he comforts them. Instead of forcing white American audiences to face the ugly reality of race.
The one thing I will say is that he need a press rate about saying nigga. That would be it. That would be it.
Systemic inequality, the jester flips those realities into comedy. Pain becomes parody, suffering becomes slapstick. The cruelty of anti-blackness is softened, wrapped in laughter, and handed back as entertainment. The audience can consume stereotypes without guilt because, at the end of the day, it's all just a joke. But just a joke is exactly what makes it powerful. Laughter disarms. When racism comes dressed as comedy, it doesn't feel like hate, it feels like permission. You're not laughing at black people, you're laughing with them. You get a pass. Hell, after all, the black guy telling you the joke wants you to laugh. White audiences can laugh at caricatures of blackness without guilt because humor provides cover. And that thin veil of irony makes the jester effective, turning mockery into entertainment and entertainment into normalization. But the jester is only one side of the coin. We then have the knight. While one is an entertainer, the other is an enforcer. Unlike the jester, the knight doesn't play for laugh, instead aligning themselves with whiteness and defending the very systems that harm their own people. They're the moral enforcer, preaching discipline, respectability, and obedience. If the jester reassures white audiences that blackness is laughable, the knight reassures them that the real problem isn't racism, it's other black people and their culture. Just as minstrelsy created the blueprint for the jester, the knight was born from slavery itself. On the plantation, you had slaves that were elevated above others, not out of kindness or
the goddamn field niggas, you feel me? Or the house niggas. That like that nigga from Django, who what is his name again? Y'all know what I'm trying to say. That one nigga from Django who was crying when old boy got shot.
Merit, but as a tool of control, being rewarded with scraps of comfort for loyalty and used to police other enslaved people. You begin to see the earliest form of the knight, a black figure whose very survival depended on protecting the master's interests. After emancipation, this role transforms. White elites paraded formerly enslaved people who praised their masters as benevolent, framing bondage as a civilizing institution. For example, pro-slavery writers like John B. Gordon and James Henry Hammond eagerly published quote-unquote testimonies from freedmen claiming slavery had been a blessing. You also had figures of black colonization movements like John B. Russwurm and William Hannibal Thomas, who assured whites that black freedom meant separation, not equality. And on the more extreme end, you had physicians like Samuel A. Cartwright, who promoted pseudoscience like drapetomania, the idea that a slave wanting to be free is a form of mental illness. He relied on black collaborators to validate his false claims about black laziness and inferiority. Those early versions of the knights were nothing more than useful props. They told white audiences exactly what they wanted.
Nigga, you trying to be free? Are you fucking retarded? Like, that's insane. Can you imagine? Oh, that nigga's broken. He want to be free. He's fucking crazy.
Here, that racial.
Why would you ever want to leave all this? Got you a nice little bed, clean fields.
Hierarchy was natural, just, and even divinely ordained. By the time we get to the 20th century, the knight evolves into the voice of respectability politics. You see it in figures like Bill Cosby and Shelby Steele, who, while groundbreaking in some ways, also doubled as the poster child for middle-class assimilation, embodying the idea that accepting black humanity depended on proper dress, diction, and morality. In politics, you get Clarence Thomas and Thomas Sowell, two uncles whose influence came not from serving black communities, but from reassuring white conservatives. Thomas used the Supreme Court to gut civil rights protections under the guise of colorblindness, while Sowell built a career downplaying racism and blaming inequality on black culture and behavior. And in popular media, you often see the knight as a direct foil to the jester, the serious preacher, the disciplinarian father figure, the bootstrap philosopher who scolds poor black people while ignoring the systemic barriers stacked against them. Today, the knight thrives as a commentator. He's the black conservative pundit on Fox News, PragerU, and the Daily Wire. He assures white America that police brutality is blown out of proportion, that systemic racism isn't real, and that black people are simply victims of their own bad choices.
Stop resisting arrest. I don't know how many times we got to say that. I don't know why people aren't getting it. We shouldn't even be having conversations about police. There's no such thing as police reform. And
how far is the white man's cock up your ass, my brother in Christ? Oh.
A big problem with police brutality and black people? No, there's not. Not from my point of view.
He's the YouTube grifter lecturing about quote-unquote black fatigue and how ghetto blacks are gonna get us all killed.
Yo, this fucking Batiman is fucking hilarious, bro. The nigga is overly memed.
These black people are really struggling, and they're turning into these maniacs. It seems like they don't do anything right. They're obnoxious, they're rude, they're inconsiderate, aggressive, cruel.
I mean, I don't think he said anything racist. He didn't denigrate. He said, this is why people feel that way.
I hate America. America is such a goddamn fucking crosses shithole. I don't give a fuck what nobody say, bro.
Described the other race of people. He did not describe. He described
niggas is brain dead, brainwashed. Fucking, I don't even know, bro.
Not black people. I mean, I think there is a big difference. I think that I've met a lot of black people and I've met a lot of niggas.
He's even the Lincoln.
I kind of know what he's saying though. I kind of know what that nigga's saying though. I kind of understand what he's saying. But you feel me? I'm not gonna lie. You can't hear a nigga give a take like that and you say anything positive after.
Black excellence influencer preaching that systemic racism can be conquered with enough hustle and positivity. Doesn't matter what he wears, it can be a suit or a hoodie. The performance is the same. The knight positions himself as proof that black success is possible if you just follow the rules, and if you don't, well, that's your fault. His job isn't to liberate his people, it's to discipline them on behalf of the system. The knight works because he cloaks anti-blackness in dignity. Where the jester weaponizes laughter, the knight weaponizes morality. He doesn't need to make white audiences laugh, he makes them feel righteous. By wagging his finger at black communities, he reassures white America that inequality isn't structural, it's personal. Racism doesn't have to be confronted because the knight insists the real problem is us. And that's the trick. He allows racism to hide in plain sight. If the jester tells white audiences, you're not racist, it's just a joke, then the knight tells them, you're not racist, you're right. Every inequality becomes a morality tale. Prisons are full not because of over-policing, but because black men lack quote-unquote values. Schools fail not because of gutted funding, but because black parents don't care enough. Poverty isn't the product of wage theft or housing discrimination, it's just laziness. The knight takes systemic violence and translates it into individual failings, making oppression look earned and deserved. Now, these two types of may seem like polar opposites, but both the jester and the knight serve the same court. They divide the work of maintaining the racial order. The jester turns injustice into entertainment, making it easier to laugh at than confront. The knight takes the same injustice and recasts it as a moral failing, assuring audiences that inequality is the product of bad choices, not bad systems. Together, they work in tandem, softening the blow and then justifying it. One minute you laugh, next minute you're nodding your head in agreement. And this duality survives because it's profitable and useful. Media platforms, corporations, and political institutions reward content that either entertains without threatening power or dignifies inequality as discipline. That's why The Jester thrives in viral clips and comedy routines, while The Knight is elevated in op-eds, think tanks, and news commentary. Both are monetized, both are incentivized, and both are rewarded precisely because they stabilize the racial order rather than challenge it. The impact is real. That distortion of public perception shapes policy. When The Jester normalizes brutality and The Knight reframes systemic barriers as personal failings, the result is paralysis. No need to reform and no appetite for justice. In practice, this translates into underfunded schools, harsher policing, and the erosion of civil rights, all justified by the story that black suffering is either laughable or deserved. In the end, it's just like we said earlier, two sides of the same coin. One makes oppression palatable, the other makes it principled. Neither disrupt the system. And until the structures that reward these performances are dismantled, both will keep tap dancing to the bank. But identifying only take you so far. Let's say you see the harm, damage, and destruction this causes, and none of that phases you. In fact, you see how lucrative it is and want to make some money off of it. Well, you morally bankrupt motherfucker, I have just the news for you. This next section is going to teach you exactly how to sell your soul. I'm going to teach you step by step how to cook. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the only channel brave enough to talk about real issues in the black community. Today we're gonna react to More Sexy Red. Now, I know we've talked about her in 14 different videos already, but the views, oh baby, the views let me know you guys haven't had enough.
I remember when I made a video commenting on like a black fatigue shit, and I was like laughing at them because it was obviously like hidden racism, and I was laughing at how funny it was. And the nigga commented on my shit, said, yes, the fatigue is real. What the fuck? Shit crazy, bro.
If Massa catch me out here, I'ma get in trouble. I'ma teach you how to be one of the good ones. That way you get to sleep in a big house like me. Earlier we detailed how to spot a how they take many different forms, and ultimately what their purpose is in regards to white supremacy. However, in this section we're gonna teach you how to, specifically how to be a knight, essentially what tactics they use and how they lure in moderate and more conservative leaning black folks. The reason why we're focusing more on the knight is because it's the more lucrative and harder to spot out of the two. See, the Jester is obvious. He's loud, he's clownish, and 9 times out of 10 you can spot him shucking and jiving a mile away. But the knight? He carefully cloaks his rhetoric behind dignity, posture, and quote-unquote common sense. He disguises himself as someone trying to help black people get their act together, when in reality, he's just there to play on already pre-existing tropes. And that invisibility is what makes him just as dangerous as he is lucrative. So consider this your field manual, a little how-to guide for becoming the most lucrative form of coon, the bootlicker, the sellout, the uncle, the knight. We'll break down the 3 main steps of performance, the tricks that make it effective, and most importantly, the damage it causes. Because this hustle may help you get in the big house, but it comes at the expense of all of us still stuck in the field. First, we have step 1, gaining your audience. And you do so by playing into respectability politics. You need a socially conservative audience of people, folks that are quote-unquote fed up with the current state of black culture. They can be black conservatives, they can be black moderates with traditional values, hell, they can even be church folks. They just have to believe that the biggest barrier to black liberation is black culture. Your job is to feed their frustration by antagonizing the culture itself. Remove any sort of nuance from your argument. You need to frame hip-hop not as an art form, but as the cause of community destruction. That crime exists because of rap lyrics, not because of poverty or over-policing. You shame clubbing, twerking, block parties, even marching bands as undignified spectacles. Reduce them to proof that black people quote-unquote don't know how to act. You police language, paint AAVE as defective English rather than a legitimate dialect with history and grammar. You weaponize faith. This is the big one right here. Use scripture to shame black folks who don't fit into narrow molds of chastity or family structure. You police gender roles. The left wants to turn black men gay and trans. The left doesn't want women to be ladylike anymore. What you're deliberately doing is conflating self-respect with respectability politics. They are not the same thing. Conservatism has done such a good job of blurring the line between self-respect and respectability politics that most folks don't even know the definition of the term. Having manners is not respectability politics. Carrying yourself with dignity and humility as well as showing respect to those in your community is not respectability politics. Black people have always held ourselves and each other with discipline, integrity, and pride despite centuries of systemic abuse. These are core values of respect found within almost every human culture and not specific to any race or ethnicity. Respectability politics hijacks that concept of respect and weaponizes it. It argues that if marginalized groups did a better job of adhering to the cultural norms of those in power, then they'd be treated with dignity and gain social acceptance. If black people just got their act together, if we all spoke well enough, if we all dressed well enough, if we all tried to be like the quote-unquote good ones.
Cut off those goddamn dreads. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say nothing about my pops, but he might be leaning towards the night situation. That nigga is very he be saying some corny shit when he ready. I ain't gonna lie.
We'd finally be worthy of being treated like human beings. It reframes manners, discipline, and humility not as basic practices for personal and community strength, but as a checklist for conditional acceptance into white society. You end up with a way for black people to blame themselves for their own oppression. What we need is a complete cultural reset. No more thug culture, but a nice, clean, pure culture. One that our freedmen ancestors would have wanted. If we don't give them a reason to be racist, then they won't be racist. The sad part is, those that adhere to respectability politics never ended up seeing how futile it is. You can dress the part, speak the part, and live your whole life trying to be the quote-unquote good one, but no matter how carefully you perform, it doesn't...
And can you imagine like living your whole entire life not being your truest, most authentic self to fit inside of a fucking mold? Fuck that shit. Fuck that shit.
Immunity from racism. History has shown us again and again, educated black people, wealthy black people, church-going black people, hell, even literal children, all have faced the same violence, the same exclusion, the same suspicion, the same hatred, regardless of how well behaved they are. MLK and Malcolm X were literally murdered in suits. It didn't save them. It didn't save the residents of Tulsa. It didn't save Amantic Bradford Jr. It didn't save Philando Castile. It didn't save Elijah McClain. It didn't save Atiana Jefferson. It didn't save Botham Jean. It didn't save Henry Louis Gates Jr. It didn't save Christian Cooper. It didn't save Tamir Rice. It didn't save Sandra Bland. It didn't save Patrick Lyoya. It didn't save Jamel Robertson. It didn't save John Crawford III. It didn't save Ralph Yarl. It didn't save Keith Lamont Scott. It didn't save Corey Jones. It didn't save the Charleston 9. It didn't save the Buffalo 13. It didn't save Ayanna Stanley Jones. It didn't save Sean Bell. Every one of these people dressed quote-unquote properly, quote-unquote spoke properly, worked hard, followed rules, complied with police, achieved higher education, avoided quote-unquote street culture, lived and operated exactly how respectability politics demands black people to. They all quote-unquote had their act together. And yet we're still surveilled, demonized, displaced, beaten, arrested, murdered, ignored, or destroyed. It's a permanent shifting of the goalpost. Respectability politics doesn't shield us, it simply shifts blame back onto the community when the oppression persists. But because respectability politics has been conflated with self-respect so well, you got niggas willing to go to war to defend it without even knowing the real definition. So you're just telling me we should let these folks act like buffoons? We should just let this degeneracy exist? You can't tell me it doesn't make us all look bad, not realizing that this logic right here is the problem. Nobody here is arguing against discipline, integrity, or accountability within our communities, or holding members accountable when they disrespect others. There's countless times where we've called out disrespectful, degenerate shit, especially when it disrespects our ancestors. What we're rejecting is the idea that black culture is the reason why racism exists. That logic is ass backwards. White supremacy didn't appear because black folks quote unquote didn't know how to act right, and it damn sure isn't disappearing if we all magically did. And let's be clear, every community has its degeneracy, especially white folks. Wall Street executives snorting coke, country music festivals, NASCAR, white frat parties, spring breakers, rodeos, Fred Durst, motorcycle rallies, January 6th, Eagles fans. But no one ever says those guys represent all white people, or that white respectability depends on silencing those behaviors. Only black folks are told that a few people's buffoonery condemns the whole race. That's not moral concern. That's anti-blackness.
What the fuck? Yeah, I can't hear shit. Oh, that nigga shit muted. Audio edited to avoid copyright. Oh, okay. I see. I'm an illiterate. Am I that now? Because I like to say that.
When you make the argument that we're the real black people, not those niggas, it doesn't shield you from racism, nor does it help the community. All it does is affirm a racist fantasy where they are the standard, and we are the ones that must constantly perform to disprove inferiority. And even inside that fantasy, you're not treated as an individual. You're just the designated responsible black. The one white people think should help manage and discipline the quote-unquote ghetto inner city blacks they've already decided are beyond saving. It doesn't grant you respect. It just assigns you a different role in the same racist hierarchy. You not liking Sexy Red is one thing. You thinking she's tacky or trashy or vulgar, cool, that's fine. You have every right not to like her.
I'm not gonna hold you.
I'm
not gonna hold you, bro. I think she got tapes that I could find and beat off through. I think I seen somewhere that she was getting fucked online. And there's something about Sexy, man. There's something about Sexy. You know, I was at first kind of disgusted by her, but there's something about her. There's something about her. I might let her suck my balls. There's something about her, nigga. I was disgusted at first, but it's just the more I see, I don't know.
Sexy Red as the reason why we can't get ahead? That's some shit. See? This is what's destroying our people. Not crime bills, not redlining, not mass incarceration. Balloons and booty shorts. But here's the wildest and most disturbing irony. The people who cling to respectability politics know the double standard exists. They know black people are forced to quote-unquote perform good behaviors so one person's mistakes doesn't condemn the entire race. They know we get collective punishment while white people get treated as individuals. They'll even tell you plainly, look, that's just the way it is. But instead of questioning the system that makes that logic possible, instead of asking why black humanity is treated as conditional in the first place, why over 47 million people have to be collectively judged by the actions of a few, they turn the burden back on the community. They disguise it as accountability. They defend the double standard. They try to enforce it. They blame black people for the weight of that racist expectation. And that's the trap. The moment you accept the idea that the entire race lives or dies based on the behavior of the loudest, most foolish, ignorant among us, you've already agreed to an anti-black worldview. You're no longer challenging racism, you're helping enforce its rules. Respectability politics doesn't fight the system, it just tries to bargain with it. It tells us the world is anti-black, so let's contort ourselves into whatever shape offends whiteness the least, even though that shape has never protected a single black life. If we don't give them a reason to be racist, then they won't be racist. Step one is simple. Play into respectability politics using your platform to police other black people. You become the mouthpiece for white supremacy. Repackaging its talk.
Again, bro, this shit was so fucking sad to witness. These niggas completely just, I don't even know, bro. Hodge Twins was like a fundamental part of my childhood, man. Like, what is, like, let's look at like peak Hodge Twins, bro.
Right now, she's like, deeper. And dudes like this, he's on top of right, big ugly motherfucker. Wipe all that damn avocado semen from the corner of your lips. That's a damn respect.
See, it's good. Fuck, I don't know what the fuck happened to these niggas, bro. These niggas got hella political for no fucking reason. Yo, GG's, bro.
Points in a quote-unquote community concern route. Instead of challenging the system that dehumanizes you, you redirect the blame onto your own people, saying the problem isn't centuries of racism
and then you bust!
Thought, it's how we carry ourselves. Regurgitate this joke.
They love saying that shit.
The audience will come to you.
Nah, bro.
However, that leaves us with step
Niggas is
2,
goated.
preaching the gospel of personal responsibility. Once you've secured your socially conservative audience, the next move is to hammer home the idea that every problem black people face is a result of personal failure. Forget redlining, forget mass incarceration, housing, and medical discrimination. None of that exists in this framework. Instead, it's always about laziness, bad choices, and moral weakness. You know, personal responsibility.
If step 1 was about performance, telling black folks to dress right, talk right, and act right to earn dignity,
then step 2 is about internalizing failure when that performance doesn't magically end oppression.
It goes from, if we act right, they'll treat us right, to, if things still don't get better after we act right, then we just didn't work hard enough.
Your job is to use your platform to redirect every conversation about systemic barriers back to individual shortcomings. Use all the conservative talking points. If someone mentions housing discrimination, you pivot to, why don't they just save up to buy a house? If the cops shoot an unarmed kid in the back, you ask, well, why was he running away? Why didn't he just comply? Crime, fatherless homes. Poverty, bad financial choices. You should have gotten to crypto. Every structural critique becomes a sermon about discipline and morals. That's why step 2 is so important for the grift. It doesn't just shift the blame, it keeps it shifted. It traps your audience in a loop where systemic oppression is never real, but personal failure always is. It's the perfect conservative alibi. If black people fail, then it's our fault. But if we succeed, then it's despite ourselves. Look, I don't want to hear about racism or history or systemic barriers. That's a victim mentality.
It's time to stop blaming everyone else but ourselves for our lives and our actions.
Nigga on that AIDS prep.
Gatekeep black access, and black people still hold a disproportionately tiny share of institutional wealth and ownership across all industries. Don't worry though, a good chunk of your audience isn't really looking for stats or proof to begin with. You elevate bootstrap fairy tales as proof that inequality isn't structural, it's cultural. The genius of this step is that it reframes oppression as self-inflicted, absolving institutions of any sort of responsibility. It tells your audience that racism isn't systemic, it's just a glitch in black communities. And that's exactly the damage these talking points cause. It takes centuries of structural sabotage, predatory policing, discriminatory lending, underfunded schools, and reduces it to a matter of willpower. For black communities, you're hit with a double burden. Literally. In 1903, black American sociologist W.E.B. Du Bois proposed the idea of double consciousness. As a black person, you're forced to navigate the world twice over, once through your own lived reality, and once through the gaze of a society that pathologizes your very existence. Respectability politics and the gospel of personal responsibility sharpen that double vision into a wound. Not only do you have to survive the realities of discrimination, but you're also told it's your own fault when those barriers stop you from advancing. The effect is absolutely disgusting. It erases history, isolates individuals, and weaponizes shame as a political tool. Worse, it gives the institutions a free pass. If poverty is reduced to just quote-unquote bad choices, then governments, banks, schools, and corporations never have to answer for the systemic violence they enact. But that's your role as a bootlegger, as a knight, as a... It's your job to ensure that these talking points never stay isolated in white conservative spaces, but circulate back into black communities as quote-unquote common sense. You become the courier of white supremacy dressed up in the language of tough love. your platform becomes less about empowerment and more about enforcement, making sure that whenever structural critique arises, it gets drowned out by lectures on hustle, morality, and self-discipline. In this way, you don't just echo the system, you fortify it. We now move on to the third and final step, the one that everyone wants: platforming outrage and cashing out. Once you've amassed an audience of conservatives and gained their attention, you have to keep them hooked, and that's by feeding them non-stop outrage. Your digital platform becomes a stage show. Every tweet, reaction video, commentary, or Fox News appearance is designed to mock, scold, or call out black communities in ways that your audience finds entertaining and engaging. Police shoot another unarmed black kid? That's not tragedy, that's content. New rap song goes viral? Hell, you found some body cam footage or some random TikTok? That's your chance to rant about quote-unquote degeneracy and quote-unquote fatherless homes. You don't even need to believe it. The outrage machine doesn't care. All it requires is consistency. Social media isn't neutral. It's designed to amplify the loudest, most polarizing takes because outrage keeps people scrolling. Anger is addictive, and every platform has figured out that controversy is the most reliable fuel for engagement.
So then why when I call niggas on TikTok, my shit don't blow up? Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, nigga. My shit's still at 200 views.
The more rage you induce, the more visibility you get. The more visibility you get, the more your audience grows. And the bigger your audience, the bigger your paycheck. But the danger of this sensationalist slop is that it doesn't just stay online. It seeps into how entire communities are perceived. When algorithms reward these hollow, solutionless critiques of quote-unquote ghetto culture, broken families, or violent youth, those images become the
yeah, I don't know how much white cock has gotten to this bitch brain, but it certainly seems to be a lot.
Shorthand for blackness in the wider public imagination. Politicians cite them to justify harsher policing. Employers use them as excuses not to hire. Teachers absorb them as biases against their own students. And worst of all, they drown out the real diversity, complexity, and humanity of black life. The spectacle of outrage becomes the dominant story, a loop of shame and scolding that reduces millions of people to the worst stereotypes for clicks and profits. What looks like content is actually—
Did that nigga say MLK is a false— what this nigga say?
Becomes the dominant story, a loop of shame and scolding that reduces millions of people
is a fraud. Already pussy clots. Oh my god, nigga, you completely have sold out your people. Oh, for sure. I didn't realize these niggas was going this far, bro.
To the worst stereotypes for clicks.
Wow.
What looks like content is actually cultural warfare, and every time it goes viral, it tightens the grip of white supremacy under the guise of quote-unquote honest critique. But at the end of the day, that's the whole point of a clip. If they see a black voice saying these things, it doesn't just confirm their biases, it sanctifies it.
Jesus
Suddenly,
Christ.
racist talking points don't look racist anymore. They look like truth because they're being delivered by someone who looks like the people being attacked. This is why media platforms love trotting these figures out. A Fox News panel on crime doesn't hit the same without a black commentator ready to scold their own community. A conservative op-ed about culture carries more weight when it's being penned by someone black. Even liberal outlets will platform these voices under the guise of quote-unquote balance, letting their audience consume stereotypes without guilt. The cycle is complete. Your outrage content feeds algorithms grow your audience makes you marketable to media outlets, and those outlets recycle your rhetoric into policy debates. In the end, your face becomes the mask white supremacy wears when it wants to speak with a black voice. However, if you've already made it this far to step 3, none of that should matter to you. You've already won. It's now time to cash out and enjoy the fruits of your labor. You've built a brand, secured media appearances, signed book deals, maybe even landed a podcast or a think tank fellowship. The damage to your community is irrelevant because the incentives don't reward care, they reward consistency. So what? Other black folks might call you a— who cares? You got paid at the end of the day. They didn't. You
get a pog. You get to sell down with your pog. You feel me? Get a nice pog and settle down.
Put in the work to get to where you are, and that work definitely paid off. You made a career deliberately spreading harmful, inaccurate narratives about your own people for the sake of white approval and dollars, and did a damn good job of it. But there's still one unresolved question. One
My
that we
balls,
ask
hold up, my balls, my balls, my balls, my balls itchy.
Was any of this worth it? Was the platform, the paycheck, the fleeting applause of an audience that never truly wanted you worth the price of your self-respect? Because here's the truth, a seat at the table is never guaranteed. And even if you do manage to secure one, don't fool yourself, you're not getting served. You're the entertainment, you're the prop, you're the proof they point to so they don't have to change. That's the real cost of cooning, and it's a bill that always comes due. But let's actually explore this. What happens to when massa no longer needs them to serve them? Do we welcome them back with open arms after spending their entire career spreading harm? Even better, what about the rest of us? Or not, how do we navigate the trap of needing to play into white sensibilities without ending up like these clowns? Enough tap dancing. Time to take the shoes off.
Oh no, this can't be. It says I'm 102% African with a 2% margin of error. Why, Lord? Why, Lord? Why?
And then tokens get spent.
Son, I just want to say that was an amazing speech you gave. You truly are a credit to your people.
Thank you, sir. Let's get one thing straight before we go any further. You will never get a seat at the table. Not a real one. You might get invited to stand near it, maybe even handed a plate if you're lucky, but you'll never be allowed to sit down and eat without permission. That's not how this system works. It doesn't integrate you into power, it accessorizes you. You're not there to change it, you're there to make it look changed. You're the token black used to paint the illusion of equity. Black lips used to tell white lies. Truth is, tokens get spent every single time. They parade you around until your usefulness runs out. Then they toss you aside like a campaign slogan that's gone stale. The minute your image stops being profitable, the minute your words stop aligning with their script, the second you start believing you actually earned your place instead of being placed there, that's when the mask slips and you realize you never were at the table. You were the tablecloth protecting the diners. We've seen this time and time again what happens when a bootlicker fails to shine Massa's shoes well enough, or when he finds some other happy-to-be-here Negro who can do it better. We saw this with black MAGA politicians and allies who were eager to support Trump during his campaign, only to be ditched and discarded when he won. Figures like Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, and Mark Robinson all tried to curry favor with Trump, but they weren't selected for high-profile cabinet positions. Their loyalty
that dick sucking gets you nowhere, nigga. That's tough.
The same can be said with all of these conservative commentators on YouTube and TikTok. Social media personalities like Officer Tatum and Rob Smith were willing to get on all fours to defend and worship white conservatives and their policies.
This nigga getting his fucking batio blown out by a white man.
But that worship never saved them from hate crimes.
As a Christian that went to Israel, I spent 2 weeks there with the church, and we had an incredible time. We had only one incident where a small child spit on one of the pastors, and immediately after there was an adult that came by and said, "That's not a representation of who we are. You know, we love you guys. You guys are always welcome here." And I have to say, no adults gave us any grief. We had no issues whatsoever.
So let me ask you a question. Where the fuck you think children learn their behavior from? You think when a child goes to school and he says, "Timmy, you're a f***," you think he didn't hear his dad say that? Where do you think kids learn shit from? Yes, nowadays kids learn shit from other kids, and you can only... Yeah, no, that's actually a valid point. Kids do learn things from other kids, especially with social media. But a lot of shit starts in the home, bro. A lot of shit starts in the home. So why the fuck do you think... Why the fuck... the nigga had the audacity to come up to one of you niggas and spit on you. Where the fuck you think he got that bravado from? Why the fuck would the child feel comfortable walking up to you and doing that? Unless somebody in the general vicinity felt at least a little bit of a chuckle when it happened. You feel me? Nigga got a public talking to and he got McDonald's at the crib. You feel me? That nigga got McDonald's at the crib. They gave that nigga a fucking treat after the reprimand that you seen. I promise you.
And our experience there, it was...
Nigga got a Happy Meal.
This spineless Negro literally gets spat on, and his first instinct is to thank them for only spitting on him once. Rob had to find out the hard way that folks who dislike both the black and LGBTQ communities might have a problem with him being a black gay Republican.
I'm not gonna lie, is literally iDubbbz's old catchphrase, isn't it? Isn't his old catchphrase? And that's something that I again, iDubbbz, we ain't forget that, nigga.
I was in Phoenix, Arizona for an event called America Fest.
Did somebody call him a at this situation? What happened?
Which is held by Turning Point USA. I went to this event.
And what is your fucking hairpiece, nigga? What is your hair? What is that? What is your head top? What is your fucking head top, nigga?
Because I saw that a lot of other conservative influencers would be there, and I had no idea that it was going to be infested with these people.
I had no idea the leopards would eat my face. Imagine spending years kissing ass just to get hate crimed at a rally. And then there's the queen of
funny as fuck
herself, Candace Owens. For years, she served as the Daily Wire's black mouthpiece, their go-to for packaging bigotry as quote-unquote common sense. As long as she stuck to the script, she was golden. But the minute she went off script, the minute she called out the Israeli state for committing a genocide, she too saw how much a spent token was really worth: unemployment. Her usefulness expired and lost her job at the Daily Wire. Their black mouthpiece no longer was singing the right notes. Crazy part is, she didn't even learn her lesson. A few weeks ago, she gave a heartfelt tribute to her dear friend Charlie Kirk. I genuinely believe she was one of the closest friends and colleagues that this hateful piece of shit had, which
makes
it even funnier when she didn't get invited to speak at his memorial. But you know what she did get used for? To prove that he wasn't racist because he had black friends. And don't think you can just
W
rebrand
token
and get welcomed back in with open
W
arms
token.
by the very community you spent years disrespecting. It's not that easy. And before any of you start caterwauling, I thought you were supposed to be pro-black. I guess that doesn't apply to independent thinkers. So much for the tolerant left. Let's get one thing straight, Mr. Independent Thinker. No community is obligated to embrace you after you built an entire career profiting off of lies that made their lives harder. You had no problem demonizing struggling families, mocking victims of police violence, or gaslighting your own people on national TV. You weren't thinking independently, you were selling your integrity for engagement. And now, when the checks stop coming in and your handlers move on, you want grace from the same folks you told to pull themselves up by their bootstraps? Hell no. That's called consequences. What you need to do is work harder and take some personal accountability, then maybe we'll let you back in. But what if you're not that far gone? What if you're not some morally bankrupt opportunist, and instead just a regular person with some conservative leanings? This is for the black moderates, the socially conservative black folks, the churchgoers, the we just need to do better crowd. The ones who might not be but are standing close enough to this rhetoric to sometimes fall for it when it's dressed up in pretty words. I get it, you want order, stability, and safety in our communities. We all do. You're tired of the chaos, the economic instability, the communal violence that at times can feel inescapable, the constant feeling like we're fighting uphill battles that never end. But I need you to understand, conservatism has never been the answer. It has never, in almost the 300 years of this nation's existence, once improved the material conditions of black people. Not once. Not during abolition, not during Reconstruction, not during Jim Crow, not during the war on drugs, not now. There is no empirical data, no policy, no administration, no economic period where black conservatism resulted in measurable liberation. It doesn't happen because it's not designed to happen. Conservatism's entire function is to preserve existing hierarchies, not dismantle them. Regardless of how much you try to modify your behavior or existence, them being in charge will always result in you being in a subservient role. It doesn't matter how much money you achieve, status you obtain, or
you still a nigga. Still a nigga.
The thing that you are conserving
still a nigga. J. Cole, still a nigga. Word?
So, let me ask again. What exactly is it you're trying to conserve? It can't be the black family, as it was conservative policies that tore black families apart. The same legislation that escalated surveillance, criminalized poverty, and funneled black men into prisons at historic rates. It was conservative welfare reforms that punished single mothers, cut public assistance, and destabilized entire households under the guise of responsibility. It can't be economically, as those agendas have continuously widened racial wealth gaps and stripped wealth from black communities at every turn. And it damn sure ain't socially conservative. Black people have been the most socially progressive demographic for the past 80 years. We've been at the cornerstone of every social and civil rights movement, despite a large portion of us being deeply entrenched in traditional views of religion and Christianity. We've never been conservative. Not fiscally, not socially, never. Rejecting conservatism is the key to advancing our community, and this doesn't mean you have to be a liberal or a Democrat. In fact, far from it. Let's be clear, I do not like the Democratic Party. Both sides of the establishment are just two sides of the same coin. They give the illusion of choice. Everything we've attributed to these tap-dancing, self-hating black conservatives.
Why is that politics in like damn near every place, bro? Like, cause in Jamaica, the two main, I'm not a political streamer, but in Jamaica, the two main political parties are literally the exact same thing. It's just slightly different talking points. Like, everything is so goddamn corrupt. Like, I ain't gonna lie.
Conservatives can just as easily be applied to a lot of these black liberals. Democrats might tokenize you with symbolism and dangle progress over your head like a carrot on a stick, while Republicans just do it with more open contempt. Both serve the same capitalist system that keeps you tired, underpaid, over-surveilled, and underrepresented, using you as electoral props only to discard you in favor of lobbyists and donors. Neither one of these are on your side, but we need to get rid of this foolish mentality that just because the Democratic Party continues to fail us time and time again, that we all need to suddenly become conservatives. That's like disarming one bomb, then immediately strapping 10 more to your chest. Instead of doing the bare minimum of searching for an electoral candidate to magically solve all our problems every 4 years, we collectively as black Americans need to reject blind loyalty to the two-party system and start to invest in direct action. Usually on every video, I have people who try to leave these gotcha comments. Actually, Pillboy, you missed something. You forgot to explain this. Only for me to address and explain it later in the video. They don't want to sit and watch the entire video before getting their rocks off in the comments, which is usually why I get bullshit comments like, no solutions? So you're just complaining but providing no solutions? Well, this is for you. The only way to meaningfully improve the lives of black Americans is by changing the system shaping our lives.
And why the fuck does this nigga have to give a solution, you fucking dick sucking ass nigga? Like, why can't we just have a conversation about the issue and then let it be?
No solutions? You don't want to solve the problems for us?
I don't have the patience for any niggas on the internet, bro. That's what I'm starting to realize. I really don't. I ain't got the patience for niggas on the internet. I really tell niggas what they supposed to hear, and that is to eat a fucking dick. You feel me? The fuck?
That being capitalism, the same system that depends on inequality and scarcity function, quote unquote.
Oh, look at the fucking beautifully edited video. You gonna fucking dick suck in the comments. Wait, look at this. Look at the production. Nigga illustrated this shit. He got custom captions. He got custom fonts. He got custom animations, and you gonna dick suckers. That's what I'm trying to tell you, bro. Nigga, I said it once. I said it in one of my videos on my main channel. Niggas on the internet will dick suck you for no reason at all. You just have to get used to it. I ain't gonna lie.
Problems that people like to blame, behavior, choices, norms,
cocksuck,
are just reflections of larger structural forces, and every time you interrupt them, when resources are decommodified, when communities gain ownership, when public services are fully funded, these so-called cultural problems disappear right along with the conditions that produce them. And this is not some theory. We have decades of data to back this up. Let's start with crime. Most high violence neighborhoods, they map out almost perfectly onto areas of concentrated poverty, eviction, unemployment, and state abandonment. The violence doesn't decline just because people start quote unquote acting right. It declines when you change the environment. We saw this in both Baltimore's Park Heights and Cherry Hills neighborhoods. The Safe Streets program cut homicides by 56% and non-fatal shootings by 34%. In New York City, Cure Violence ran similar initiatives in Bronzeville, East New York, and South Jamaica, all areas with some of the city's highest poverty and segregation rates. They saw a 14% average reduction in shootings, translating roughly to about 1,300 shootings prevented over a decade. Chicago's West Garfield Park, Inglewood, and North Lawndale neighborhoods saw significant declines when community members, not police, mediated conflicts and provided support. Across 27 predominantly black low-income neighborhoods studied nationally, 68% of outcomes showed measurable, statistically significant violence reductions. These programs didn't just preach morality, they directly addressed poverty, trauma, and instability. Outreach workers connected high-risk young men to paid transitional jobs, GED programs, rental assistance, and emergency cash support. They provided on-call crisis counseling, responding to shootings to prevent retaliation. They walked families through trauma responses at neighborhood clinics. They gave risk residents access to stable, long-term employment, as well as resources to treatment. And as a result, the violence dropped. When violence decreases and stability increases, you start to see it affect education. Not because kids gain better values, but because their environment stops punishing them for being poor. Take Cincinnati's West End, Evanston, and Avondale neighborhoods, for example. When schools shifted to the community schools model, they didn't lecture students about responsibility, they removed the barriers that made a healthy learning environment impossible. Schools became resource hubs, free meals, healthcare, dental care, trauma counseling, attendance support, social workers, transportation help, after-school programs, arts programs, family resource centers. The results were immediate. Graduation rates jumped from 51% to 88%. Absenteeism fell, and behavioral issues collapsed. Why? Not because the culture magically changed or because kids didn't want to be like rappers anymore, but because the conditions did. New York City saw the same pattern across Harlem, South Bronx, Bronzeville, and Central Brooklyn. Community schools produced a 24% drop in chronic absenteeism, a 10% increase in credit accumulation, and sharp declines in suspensions. Oakland Unified told the same story in East Oakland and Fruitvale. Restorative justice addressed behavioral.
Yo, like as a nigga who made YouTube videos, just like fuck with me like how much edits this nigga got. This is a W video, bro. This is a really W video. This nigga like spent time on this shit, bro. W fucking video, man.
Treatment, not
what the
punishment.
fuck?
Graduation rates rose, and students that were once labeled disruptive became high performers once their trauma was met with care instead of cops. And why does this magically work? Because the root problem that conservatives blame on thug culture was just a symptom. It was about hunger, housing instability, untreated health issues, trauma, and the stress of poverty. And when you address those conditions, you see performance rise, because students finally have the material stability required to show up and succeed. What's powerful is how these domains reinforce one another once the material foundation changes. When families have stable housing, children experience fewer interruptions in schooling. When parents aren't drowning in financial anxiety, the household becomes calmer, and the likelihood of youth involvement in violence falls. When schools have resources and provide restorative responses, young people receive care instead of criminalization, keeping them in classrooms and out of the pipeline that destabilizes communities. When crime drops because economic survival is no longer scarce, neighborhoods become safer, local institutions strengthen, and networks of mutual support grow. Improvements in one area cause downstream improvements in the others, because they were never separate problems to begin with. They were different manifestations of the same structural root. And mind you, these conservative pundits know this. It's why you never see them talk policy or any sort of meaningful programs or initiatives that offer hands-on-the-ground support for our communities. They know the minute you address the real concerns, the money bag goes away. When I posted the humorous teaser to this video last month, I had a lot of comments like this that tried to take the centrist approach. Maybe it's policy and culture. I mean, Pillboy, those conservatives have some points. But if you actually wanted to see these issues resolved, you'd get to the real meat of the problem. They're not doing that. That's because real systemic solutions don't pay the bills. These hollow, surface-level critiques are not gonna solve anything. The truth is unavoidable. Fixing the system produces better outcomes than lecturing individuals ever has. Crime declines when neighborhoods are materially supported. Education improves when students' basic needs are met. Family stability strengthens when capitalism's pressures are lifted. The system is the root. The culture is merely the echo, and every measurable improvement we have comes from addressing the former. This is what real community accountability looks like. Supporting the people who need help, stepping in to protect our neighborhoods when the system abandons us. We talk all the time about saving our communities, about wanting safer streets, better schools, and stronger families, but this is what actually produces that. You can spend all day lecturing kids to avoid gangs and crime, which you should, but unless you're also engaging in steps to substantially improve the conditions that led them down these paths to begin with, you're not accomplishing anything. Mind you, like I said earlier, these are not some easy one-step fix to decades, if not centuries, of systemic neglect and design. But understand, when problems are being addressed with actual solutions and tangible data in mind versus hollow regurgitated talking points that only serve to placate white supremacy. It's the linchpin of all the banes that continue to plague us. And so long as it exists, there will always be black folks willing to defend it out of ignorance, out of profit, or most times both. Just know that choosing the latter always comes with a price tag, and whether or not you can afford the cost afterwards is a choice that's up to you.
Damn, bro.
Fuck out of here.
W fucking video. I can't believe I sat down and watched that entire thing, man. W fucking video. I will sell to this nigga. What the fuck? W video. Pillboy. Bet that.
I might hit New York and link with Drew. I got rocks on my necklace, and my bitch got them too. I got bad bitches tryna pull up and pour produce. I got racks in my cup, I'm sipping on lean, ain't no juice. Bitch, I ain't had no help, I ain't never had no handout. Did it by myself, I had to show these niggas I spaz out. Round town.